Yeah, I was told that I should give a little talk about power to the people, no pun intended. So I will, which is what our company is all about. How many of you in this audience have heard of Sonnen? Oh, that's about 60–70%. Great. We all know that Sonnen means sun in German as well. Yeah, Sonnen is a German company. Been around for about 10 years, just as a brief introduction to it. It was started by a mechanic in a small town 2 hours west of Munich in Bavaria called Wilpurstraat. So it's an interesting little village. That's where the factory is, and the whole village actually, as a collective, exports more energy than it imports. So it's quite well known in Europe about the energy footprint that the town has. So that's our primary factory. We also have a battery factory in Atlanta, United States, and we opened one up in Adelaide in October of this year. So we got three factories to make residential storage. The other thing you may not know about is Sonnen is also an energy company. So that's what eServices means. It's the energy arm of the business. And we are operating in Germany, so we have residential retail customers in Germany. We have residential retail customers in Italy, and we have the same in Australia. So it's a battery company for residential, for homes. It's an energy company for homes as well. Company's been around for about 10 years, and we are in the hardware space, about the 9th version of our product. And we got about, I guess globally, about 40,000 installations. So probably one of the bigger ones in this space, regardless of the brand image or the knowledge of the average person on the media. Now, so the whole philosophy, the DNA of the company is about individuals and clean energy and allowing independence or the control of the clean energy in the hands of the people. So the talk before was grid scale stuff. We are really all about homes and people and the interactions with the grid. We tend to spend a lot of time with businesses who are customer facing, individual facing, and not as much time who are business facing. So it's a very kind of a different DNA in the energy field. I guess the other big news about Sonnen was in end of January, company was purchased by 100% of it by Shell Energy, a small energy company out of Netherlands and UK. So we'll see where that goes. I think there was one of the board members was in country last month, and I think he made a statement that Shell will be the biggest power company in the world in 10 years. So watch this space, and I think we're very much integral part of that. We are maintaining our independence and the name and the brand. So we will continue to be known as Sonnen here and elsewhere where we are operating. So in Australia, we like to call ourselves German engineered, Australian made at the time. So we move with times, right? So that's a facility in Elizabeth in Adelaide. That's the old GM Holden facility. So we got offices in the front, which is it's quite a fascinating thing. The main boardroom is really you just waiting to find out where all the cigars are kept. You know, the walls are oak. There's a certain bit of spirit about the place. That's the main building where the star is focusing on. And not the small square in the middle where that's surrounded by grass, but the one behind is where the assembly area is right now. We just started in October, so starting with assembly of kits out of Germany and slowly taking more and more product directly from Asia and local suppliers. Now, I guess the talk was about power to the people. Now, what's that all about? The interesting thing about the battery storage space and the solar space that Australia has been at the forefront of the revolution, I would say, is it's people's money. It's money like people like you and I. It's not corporate money, it is discretionary spend that we have. So the way I kind of look at it, regardless of what the politicians in Canberra say or in Sydney say or Macquarie Street say, this is what people like to do for themselves. Right? So what I'm going to be talking about is how our interaction is with those people and how the business serves the individuals. Now the interesting thing is what are the people who read the future, the crystal ball gazers say about this space in terms of personal storage. I don't know about you, but I read a lot of these published numbers and I don't even know what those numbers mean. I think if you look at Sunways, we should all be rolling in it, but is it there? Don't know. I think the Bloomberg New Energy Finance is probably more rational and the numbers are more realistic than I've seen in the industry, so we kind of pick those, what they're saying. The important thing for me is not necessarily looking at the absolute value of the numbers, but the relative value of the numbers. And what the people in the industry think and believe is Australia is where all the action is. And we're talking about globally speaking. Right? And what's driving that? The fact that we have more solar panels in houses than any other country, regardless of our population, small population. So there's a one-to-one alignment with the fact that if we got solar panels on our roofs, then we will be the candidate for having personal batteries in our homes. What the numbers actually work out, we'll see. Now, what does this mean by independence and power to the people? I guess there's a number of things going on in this space. The first stuff is that the fact that you put a battery, the fact that you have a solar panel, you have decided to take an action and consuming energy for yourself. So you're already becoming independent. Right? But then you're pushing out some energy still during the day, excess energy. You put a storage system on, you collect that energy for later use. Right? So I would say that in one sense, virtual power plants are already operating. I mean, my definition of virtual power plants is a bit different than what I kind of read in the industry. In the industry, virtual power plants tend to mean a bit of technology layer which collectively controls a whole bunch of batteries or distributed assets. Now, the fact that you've got an intelligent device which is acting for the benefit of the individual householder, and they are sort of just worrying about themselves, but collectively you're having, as soon as a new battery goes in, just like the way the new solar panels went in the first wave of distributed resources, the whole grid is starting to behave differently, and there's a pattern. You can actually decipher the pattern. So regardless of what the industry or the market operators think, because of people's individuals' actions, these things the grid behavior is already changed. I don't know how many of you people look at the wholesale price chart on EMO's website. I kind of look at it every day. I don't know, maybe I'm just one of those funny people. I also used to look at the thing a few years ago, and what I noticed is the chart looks very different now than it used to a few years ago. Before, we used to have in summertime a nice sort of increase in demand in the morning, sort of flattening out, and then picking up and peaking around 4 p.m. and then it started to come down. In wintertime, you would have demand picking up around 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, coming down during the day, and then picking up again at around 8 o'clock in the evening. Go have a look at it now. The summer demand the pattern looks exactly the same as the winter pattern. The peak, the 4 p.m. peak has disappeared. what's happened? All those people are consuming their own energy. And all the solar panels are pushing out excess energy into the grid. So the afternoon peak of summer has disappeared, and that's why we're having negative prices in some places. Right? I actually think that the prices, daytime prices, should be super, super low. But interestingly, over the last 6 to 8 months, I would say that the daytime prices have been super, super high. I've never seen the prices that high. That's all competitive dynamics. It's got nothing to do with the supply and demand of the normal behavior of supply and demand. What it is you've got much less players in the market, because whenever the governments divested the state-owned assets, they sold them to the same 2 people. Right? So if you cut through all the jargon, that's what's driving it's not about we got too much energy during the day, but the price is still too high. It's really about bidding behavior. Right? So what we're talking about is by people having these distributed resources, we're taking control, being independent, in the sense that you got a whole bunch of resources which can be, at first step, already starting to behave to change the dynamics of the grid, and in the future can be coordinated, provided there is market incentives for them to be coordinated. Right? So that is all about price signaling. The other side of the stuff is the fact that you've got big renewable resources out there in the industry, plus you've got a lot of now where the supply is not matching the demand on the system, so something's got to be done to keep it balanced. Now all those resources are out there, now that's going to be connected up to that demand of the grid. Now how is that going to work? I'll tell you, the systems, the technology is there, it's all about the incentives. You know, we have the system, the technology, and the customers who are willing to do it. The question is whether the incentives exist for us to do it. Now, from the consumer point of view, I mean, this is all fine from the industry point of view, but the consumer point of view, we've got to make this really, really simple. So what we have gone about, and this is really what the eServices or the energy side of the business thinks about, is to making something very simple. And we created, I guess, an energy product in a retail tariff in Germany some time ago, and we call it sonnenFlat. I would say it's probably the first company's attempt at having the first global energy product or global brand. The interesting thing about power industry is the industry is not global. There are companies who own businesses in different parts of the world, but there is no brand recognition, there is no product standardization, there is no, that doesn't exist in our industry. I think this is where I think this is where the investment of the Shell is all about. It's going to knock out and create the thing of some kind of global coordination in terms of market branding and more product standards and economies of scale. So sonnenFlat is the first product out there. We have sonnenFlat in Germany, we have sonnenFlat in Australia, and we have sonnenFlat in Italy right now. The basic characteristics are all the same in all of those markets from the customer perspective. So what is that about from the client perspective, from the home user's perspective? So what we're talking about is taking the customer in a journey to independence. So what is the first step that people took when they wanted to have some kind of say in the energy market? First thing you did is you install a solar panel. Step one, right? That covered you for about 20-30% of your energy needs. You got on the conveyor belt, or you got on the train. Second step, you install a battery. And this is still the stage where the industry is at, right? So what do you do when you install a battery? All of a sudden, You take your daytime energy and you use it in the evening. So all of a sudden, before, by installing a solar panel, you took care of your afternoon energy use. By installing a battery, you took care of your afternoon energy use and your evening energy use. So 2/3 of your day is taken care of. Right. So you still left the morning and the odds and ends when the demand goes high because it's really hot day and you can't meet your own needs. So this is not about getting off the grid, this is about balancing your energy needs. I think we have to keep that separate. I think this is a disservice that what I would call the clean industry does by somehow sending a message that getting off the grid is good for people. The grid provides you with lots of good services which cannot be replicated by cutting yourself off the grid. It becomes very expensive. Try to be totally autonomous, and you got to learn how to maintain these things. You got to be able to fix them in the middle of the night. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you got to do. That's not what we're talking about. So the next step we're taking is, okay, well, how about we take care of the remaining part of your energy needs. We will take on the risk as eServices. We'll just ask you to go say, okay, just fix the fixed fee, and that's it. So all of a sudden, you know that you're going to get your energy all throughout the day. You know most of the stuff is going to be clean. I spend the money on the assets, and I know exactly what's going to cost me every month, and I don't have to worry about anything else. So that's what you get. That's what we meant by independence. By independence, you decide what you want to do. Now the fourth step is coming in the next bit, which is, I think, in Europe is already happening. In Australia, when it's going to happen, I don't know. Which is that we're going to have integrating transport into our, mixing up transport consumption with our home consumption. That's really what the electric vehicle is all about. Right? We're kind of saying, okay, we want to have a collective energy portfolio. Mobile versus stationary. People don't really care about, okay, where it's coming from. What they care about is what they're seeing on the bill. Okay, so that's what we mean by simplifying the energy space. Now really, just to go back, what is sonnenFlat? It is a very simple thing. It's a unique electricity tariff for people who have a solar panel and have one of our batteries. That is the prerequisite requirement. And the basic value proposition is you have a flat monthly fee, and in return, we have the right to operate your batteries. Simple. That's all it is. I already talked about, now from our perspective, our economics, when we stop at that line, is not necessarily positive, so we have to do something with it. Now this is where the integration from our side comes with the grid side of things. How can we do the value stacking as we were talking about it to make it all work? Now this is all very early days, folks. This is the model, that the path we went down on, and we're working the problem right now. I think one of the aspects of this stuff is that a lot of people think this has already happened and yesterday. No, we're in the middle of this stuff. If you go on our website, you can just kind of see that we got about 3 plants. I call it small, medium, and large in different parts of the world of the NEM. The interesting thing about the tariff that we have, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we are the only person who offers an electricity tariff in every jurisdiction in the NEM, except, of course, Oregon area. We offer this in every place, including Tasmania. Somebody was telling me this is a very unique thing. I said, oh, great. I don't know why people don't cover the whole country, all these big monsters who do energy. We do. So really, in summary, this is what the whole thing is about. It's in the Sonnen we look at ourselves as an energy organization for the benefit for having a relationship with individuals. Okay, so making things really simple. The interesting thing in this is that the capital that is being outlaid for the modern electricity grid is being put on by people like us, in addition to the taxes and other things we pay for the country's infrastructure. This is our assets which are becoming the integral part of the system. The thing that I actually find a bit disappointing in all the regions is that I've noticed a really big change in Australia over the last 18 months, that people have finally, I think our operators, the market operator, the rule makers have finally figured it out that people are not they're doing things without asking your permission, and you better get on with it. And I think what's happening right now, frankly, is an attempt by some people to sort of to grab the future in this thing. So we have to be very, very careful. Some of the rules and the trials people are trying to do, we fundamentally ask the question, well, you want all this stuff from the householders, what are you going to pay the people for that? And the answer comes, no, they must do that if they want to be on the grid. So they're trying to make it all into an obligation, right? Instead of the fact that this is a valued service. Now the funny thing is the people who are trying to make this an obligation are private infrastructure companies, right? I talk to the EMO people, I talk to the network companies. I've been around the distribution, demand management traps for a while. We started the first company of demand response in this country when people didn't even know what that thing was all about. You used to go to planning meetings with a transmission company, and they used to do forecasts. And I remember one time putting my hand up, I said, by the way, how is the solar feed-in tariff incentive going to affect your forward forecasts? Immaterial. Next year, same answer. Third year, they kept forecasting this forward growth, and the history kept showing a dropping line, right? So I think what we're talking about is from the system perspective, and that's going to affect us regardless, is somebody's going to have to write those assets down. Somebody's going to have to make the hard decision and say that you got too much assets in the wrong places. Right. The interesting thing is we've done all that. We knew we had to do all this, but we still sold off those companies. Now, it makes it a lot more difficult trying to say, okay, we have to rebalance the regulated asset base of organizations. Now, at the same time, we're having all these issues of marginal loss factors going on all over the place. Why? Because you can kind of say that generation is going in the wrong place. Right? I'm kind of thinking the generation is going to go in the wrong place, doesn't matter where you put it. Why? Because the householder is making their own energy. That's what I think is happening. I think this thing about, I think you're talking about the MLF, marginal loss factor changing between evening and daytime. Australia sets their marginal loss factors once a year. Right? We change our distribution loss factors about once every 4 years or 3 years. New Zealand has a real-time marginal loss factors calculations. Why can't we have them? Right? People are still thinking in a funny new world where what I was talking about incentives. I mean, our battery, my system, the system that the eServices can adapt because we are managing our own cost risk, right? So we can make it fit whatever the incentives make it worthwhile for us, right? So make the marginal loss factors dynamic. We can move the battery around so fast. Make it like every 5 seconds if you want to change the thing. It'll be fine for us. Makes no difference, right? So I think that kind of thinking still needs to permeate through the system. I think they're always going to be behind. I think they're kind of seeing the problem, but they're always going to be behind. And I don't know if the marginal loss factors really going to get sort it out because the householders are going to make them irrelevant, frankly. That's my soapbox speech. Sure. Questions?